Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the July 23rd edition of our Beef Brunch Update. We are missing Dr. Ashley Edwards today, but the rest of us will just, be here to hold down the fort while we're missing her on our update today. She's helping out with the livestock ambassadors and their summer retreat down in Baton Rouge. So we wish them good luck and everything, and we hope that goes well for them. We're going to start off our update this week up in the Northwest region with Lee Falk.
Thank you, Brittany. Very glad to be with you all here today. I don't have my camera turned on today. I'm out and about traveling, and that's not a bad thing. I look back on the views on these videos, and the highest viewed videos are the ones where my camera's turned off. So maybe that's a hint for me or something. Jumping right into what's going on in Northwest Louisiana. It's been mostly dry across our area and getting a little troublesome as far as how dry it's been. There's been some pop-up rain, and some people have really been fortunate and blessed to get some substantial amounts, but it hadn't been region-wide really, which that's the way it is this time of the year. The forecast looks very promising though, folks. Almost a whole week of rain chances moving forward, and not only that, but with some moderate temperatures as well. I know some people are shipping some cattle right now. They're taking advantage of this weather pattern, trying to get some cattle shipped. I talked to a gentleman this morning that was going to send several gooseneck loads, trying to take advantage of the cooler weather to pin those cattle and part off those big calves. Talked to another guy that has some background in cattle that he's going to move a little quicker, trying to reduce that shrink just a little bit on handling those cattle. And of course, shrink this time of year with the heat can really be a problem and everything. So dealing with quite a bit of armyworm pressures, especially those that have been able to pick up a little bit of rainfall, are really dealing with some armyworm issues out there. Seeing some resistance on some products as far as control methods. And so I'm just going to put this out there for y'all. If you're struggling on armyworms, or even if you haven't had any and just kind of getting prepared for it, give one of us a call or reach out to us, and let's talk about some management strategies. Let's talk about some insecticide options, some stuff that we're recommending. I'll be honest with you, what I see working, what I don't see being as effective. And so anyway, if you're struggling with those armyworms, just reach out to us. We'll kind of talk about that and how to navigate through them. Moving directly into our cattle markets, we've got a really healthy market market update for this news update. A lot of data there. Maybe just a touch softer on the markets, honestly, but it's not much. And so, quit stammering, and I'll move directly into the market report. So this is on the last 2-week period. This is the average of the ranges, and remember, this is self-reported numbers from the sale barn. From the sale barns throughout the state, and we do have reports from every barn in the state on this cycle. So here we go on the 500 to 600 pound steers. The average of the prices was $2.23 to $3.05 per pound. On the 5 to 6 weight heifers, $2.13 to $2.77. Cull cows, $1.14 to $1.52 per pound. Cull bulls, $1.34 to $1.75 per pound. Average of the high prices paid on bred cows was $2,383, and the average of the high prices paid on the pair cattle was $2,895. We look into the changes from this report to last, or from last report to this report. On 5 to 6 weight steers, saw a 0.19% decrease. That's a very slight decrease. You could almost call that steady, truly. On the 5 to 6 weight heifers, a 1.87% increase. Cull cows, 0.7% decrease, and cull bulls, 2.8% decrease. You wouldn't read too much into the cull bull prices dropping just a tad. Maybe a couple of things at work. One, they're still at record prices, folks. I mean, the average was of the ranges was $1.34 to $1.75 per pound. You take some 2,500 pound bulls, and you can really rack up some big check amounts as far as that goes on these killing bulls. The other thing that is working, I've talked about this many times on this update, every time we give this almost. This data may be just a touch skewed, folks. We know that there's not a lot of, if you look at classes of cattle sold every week, we know that there aren't just tons and tons of killing bulls sold in Louisiana. I mean, we quite a bit, but in the grand scheme of things, compared to the calves, the amount of calves we sell, there's not as many. And folks, it just may not be enough driving that data, and it may be just a few flaws in that data as far as that goes. We had a very positive for the cattle markets cattle on feed report that came out last week. Contained a few surprises in it. If you'd like to visit on that, we can definitely talk about that. Just give us a call. Really positive signs moving forward into this really late summer time frame. Hope we pick up some rain and we can keep the market rolling the way that we have as far as positive territory. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Brittany.
Okay, thanks, Lee, for a great update as always. Trip, you care to go next for us? Unmute.
That's what happens when you miss 2 weeks, guys. You forget to unmute your microphone. Yeah, I want to thank y'all very much for having me, and I want to apologize for my absence on the last couple of beef brunches. They've had us scattered from DeRidder to all over the region. We've been burning the roads up a little bit. But there's a lot of similarities on the Northwest region report and the Northeast region report. Moisture is becoming an issue. Looking at the forecast for this week, producers all across the Northeast region are sitting here with their fingers crossed, holding their breath because we need some moisture. And just like Lee said, it really depends on where you are in the region as to how much moisture you've got. And then you can have one place that has got between 2 and 3 inches of rain in the last 28 days. Drive 10 miles down the road and they've gotten less than half an inch. So it's very spotty, the rainfall. It hasn't been uniform by any means, but producers that are on the dry side of it are really starting to feel the effects of it. We are not in drought conditions yet, but we're really flirting with them. So we need to pick up a little bit of rain out of this front that's coming through this week. Another thing that we're starting to have popping up across the region is a lot of armyworm pressure, guys. If you're not scouting, you need to be scouting as frequently as you can right now because it doesn't take long to lose a crop to armyworms. These populations can explode very fast. A few notes just on scout and get out there early in the morning. Don't wait till lunch to get out there because by that time the sun's come up and the armyworms have made it to the ground level where it's very challenging to find them. Whereas if you get out there early in the morning, they'll be feeding on the vegetation in the upper portions of the plant. They're much easier to find. I'm guilty of this as anybody, going out there and either finding some worms and saying we need to spray today, or finding one or two worms after I've scouted for an hour and not having a full representation of what the population is out there. So whenever you scout, you need to pick 10 spots in each field and go out there, and you got two choices. You can either use a sweep net or you can get down on your knees and count. And whenever you counting on the ground, you want to look at 1 square foot. Now, for me, I have to have something to help visualize this. So I've got a little PVC square that I made, a little 1x1 PVC square that I toss out in the field and count what's in it. That does two things. It helps me be able to wisualize what 1 square foot is. That way I'm not counting in too large of an area. And also it helps me be random because I know if it's just left up to me, I'm going to find a big wad of crabgrass and I'm going to comb it over and won't have a full representation of the field. Whereas if I have my little PVC square, I can toss it and count what's inside it, and it really helps me be random. Another thing we're running into across the region, like I said earlier, it's starting to dry up pretty bad over here, and with that, some of our stock tanks have begun getting low. Especially some of the shallow ones, the shallower farm ponds we have issues with every summer on. You run into water quality issues. You run into issues with cows getting down in there and bogging up. So if you have one of these ponds that meets this description, might not be a bad idea to exclude the animals from that until we get some rain to raise pond levels a little bit, because there's just several problems associated with low farm ponds that we're in the time of year that we fight normally in mid to late summer and going into early fall. Guys, that is about it for the Northeast region update.
All right. Thanks, Trip. And yes, I do feel like we have been all over the state over these past few weeks, and y'all may notice that sometimes you don't see all of us on the beef brunch each week. You know, our schedules during the summer can don't always exactly line up, and we tend to be all over the place. But you know, we fill in and help out each other, and we get on here when we can to give those updates to you guys. Vince, you want to go next, and I'll go ahead and close this out.
Thank you all for having me this week again. It's you know, I'm going to follow up with Lee and Trip on their comments regarding armyworms. We're starting to see quite a vast population of armyworms, especially in the broadleaf signal grass or crabgrass, if you want to call it. You can see that clear appearance of the foliar feeding going on. It's pretty apparent that we have big populations, and you can kind of follow the egrets around and see who's got them and who don't. I know there were some sprayed in the last couple of weeks. It tends to be more of a problem when we get droughty, and we were getting to that point. But I think since Thursday, Friday, we've had probably 2.5 to 3 inches of rain in the area. More this morning and more coming this afternoon. There were some showers just south of us along the coast pretty heavily. The Lafayette down to Lake Charles area over the weekend. Some 4 to 5 inches fell in areas, and that's pretty significant. So we expected some more of that to happen in the coming days, and as the forecast is sure favorable for that to happen. So they say in a 4 to 6 inch rain event over the next few days. So hopefully that, in a way, does not come into intuition, because that's a lot of rain. You guys in the north probably could use some of that. But our rice harvest has kicked off and our corn harvest has kicked off. So that presents problems for those farmers in the field trying to harvest their crop. A lot of our rice acres are in rotation with crawfish, and that presents extra problems with navigating these fields and getting them ready for crawfish season coming up this fall and this winter with rutted situations. So it's like an untimely situation, but they say when you're making ruts in the rice, we're making beans. So at $11 and $12 beans, we need to make quite a few of them. And corn harvest is coming off at $4 corn. Talked to a few corn growers last week pulling corn. No indication of yield yet, but it's looking pretty good. But as we continue to have declining weather conditions, naturally the crop is going to show it as the yield will show it. So hopefully that comes to pass in the next days, so we can get some better weather to get this crop harvested. As far as hay situation, we've got a lot of hay. Got a lot of people, and Brittany and I have talked to a lot of people here recently. There's an abundance of hay out there, and a lot of people have hay made, and I think there's going to be a lot more made. So just depends on what the future holds, and we've seen these situations before going into the late summer, early fall with where we thought we had enough hay and it go off dry, and we're not necessarily short on hay, but can run into some issues. But with that being said, I think there's going to be plenty of hay to go around. Lee commented on the local auction barns and the market report he gave, and that's certainly enlightening when you talk to producers and they feel good about what's going on this year. And as someone said last week I talked to, is if you're not making money in 2024, I think it was at the seminar on Friday we attended, that was comment. If you're not making money in 2024 on cattle, you probably need to revisit your expenditures. So but expenses are high. Fuel and diesel are not as high as they have been, but it can get out of hand if you overspend. So with that, horn flies are still an issue. If you hadn't put fly tags, 1 or 2 maybe in each cow, you definitely need to consider that, or some type of topical treatment with one of the insecticides to knock that population down and get them on some maybe some IGR type mineral going into the fall. Generally September, October, when we get into dry periods of September and October, is when we can see our highest populations of horn flies. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Most bulls have been pulled. Those who use a controlled breeding season, most bulls have been pulled. Those non-productive or less fertile bulls are making their way through sale barn, and those prices, as Lee alluded to, are still very favorable to part with those non-productive animals. So But anyhow, those bulls, and I say this every time, with the cost of doing business on the bull market, when you're pulling your bulls, make sure that they're in a location where you can monitor them with good shade, good clean water, because that's your calf crop moving forward. So make sure those things are taken care of, and you can visually put an eye on them every day and make sure they're healthy and moving through the stress and the heat of the summer. So I'll close with that. Brittany, if you have any other questions or things I can help with, let me know.
Okay, thanks, Vince. And yes, so even just, Vince and I talked this morning, and we kind of live on, I guess, different ends of the parish, not too far apart, but I saw quite a bit of rain yesterday when I was heading through Eunice and then up to Ville Platte, and then also Saturday night saw a significant amount of rain that I believe he said he didn't see Saturday night. So just kind of depending where you are, like our rain has been scattered all over. I'm here at my office in Opelousas today, and it's been thundering quite a bit. I haven't really seen it rain yet, but I'm sure if it's not raining, it's definitely raining around us for sure. And just kind of to go off of what Vince said, I have been going out and testing some hay for some people recently. We have seen quite a bit of hay that's been baled, ahead of the rain that we've gotten over the last 2 weeks. Definitely very different than what we were seeing last summer during the drought. The yields, we have people getting some pretty high yields off of their hay cuttings and whatnot. And then we just also, have people that, want to know, they're interested to see if the inputs they're putting in, their fertilizer, the time of cutting, stage of maturity, that sort of thing, the kind of difference that makes in the quality of their hay. So I always recommend to people to, go ahead and do a forage sample. I know Vince and I both have core samplers. I'm sure many of the other agents across the state have those as well, to be able to get a good, accurate sample. And that can tell you a lot about the quality of the hay that you have. We're also seeing, I've seen a couple recently that have tend to have some high moisture content. So typically you would want your hay to be at less than 20% moisture. Ideally you would want, even less than that, 10 to 15. Can sometimes be difficult depending on the conditions and whatnot that we have. But when you get that hay that is over 20% moisture when it's baled, you can kind of start to see and also feel the difference, as to hay that is at that lower moisture level. So I'll tell you one thing: when it's a high moisture level, when you go to take a core sample and you pull that probe out of that bale, good luck putting your hand on it, because it's quite warm. Had some like that, a while back that we baled, or that we tested, that was baled, that had the probe's a little too hot to touch. Probably means your moisture content's a little high, right? So after, in the 2 to 3 weeks after baling, the hay is going to go through a process called sweating, which is due to plant respiration and microbial activity. And during this time, you'll see, depending on the moisture of the hay, you'll see those temperatures rise. They could go to, so ideally at a lower moisture, you would maybe see them go up to 130 to 140 degrees during that initial stage, and then decrease to right at about 60 degrees after 40 days after baling. So something I know that, since I've been here, and Vince has certainly helped me out a lot when it comes to testing hay and whatnot. And he's always told me that, it's better, you get a more accurate representation when you pull those hay samples 30 to 40 days after baling. And the sweating process is the reason for that. So you'll see that dry matter kind of decrease during that time. So there's some other things that you can do as well to just stop that dry matter loss. How you're storing your hay is important as well. We tend to see a lot less loss, or even no dry matter loss really, in hay that is stored covered and whatnot, as opposed to uncovered and out in the field. So those are just some different things to keep in mind. Also have some people that are baling either some sorghum Sudan hybrids or maybe doing some pearl millet. So those forages tend to have thicker stems. So when you are baling those and you're using those as hay, you want to use a mower conditioner for that can help cut that drying time down. A lot of times those types of those annuals, your warm season annuals, can probably do a little bit better for you as a haylage or baleage type situation. We did get information recently as well about the Louisiana State Hay Contest that's coming up. So if you haven't heard about that, reach out to your local agent. If you're testing some samples, those can be entered in that contest. And those winning in those certain categories, those winners will be recognized at the statewide Forage Conference being held on December 13th in Alexandria. And then just to kind of recap, just some upcoming events and whatnot. This past Friday, Vince and I both attended the livestock economics workshop, which was put on in collaboration with Louisiana Grasslands Council Initiative, Louisiana Farm Bureau, as well as the LSU Ag Center. So we saw a lot of producers that attended that over in Alexandria. Dr. Ashley Edwards and Lee Falk and Dr. Guidry, our economists, were some of the speakers at that, as well as Amelia Kent with Farm Bureau and the economist for NRCS, I'm pretty sure. And so we saw a lot of really good information come from that as well, and good participation with people coming from different parts of the state, taking advantage of that opportunity. So coming up, there is a beef quality assurance and BQA training, I believe in Abbeville, coming up July 30th. If y'all want any more information on that, you could reach out to either the Vermilion or Lafayette Ag Center offices and get in touch with Laney or Abigail there, and they'll be able to help y'all out with that. Our upcoming field days that we have the Dean Lee Beef and Forage Field Day that will be held on September 12th, and the Northeast Beef and Forage Field Day will be held September 19th at Gold Mine Plantation. Okay, y'all have anything else for us?
No, ma'am, that's it on my end.
No, that's it. All right. Well, thank y'all for listening to us today. There'll be some more our upcoming events and whatnot. Dr. Edwards will put those over in the description. And we hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.